Hello, welcome to Parenting in Diaspora. My name is Tinuke Fawili. And I'm doing this video today with my husband. What's your name?
Alaba Fawili.
Okay, how long have we been married?
Well, we've been married for 34 wonderful years, and this is my best friend of 41 years of acquaintance. It's a pleasure, again, to be invited to be a part of this channel.
Okay, so today we're discussing the topic, millennial marriages at risk. And when I do videos, they come from a place of either pain or something that I've seen that's not going well that I just want to speak about and see if, I have any solutions, or if we can discuss so that if other people have solutions also they can proffer it. So that's why we are discussing this topic. We have attended a lot of weddings, as many of you watching have. And over the last few years, we have attended weddings of millennials, of course. And what has been happening has been a cause for concern. So now I want to focus my attention on you guys, the millennials. So you know that when you're preparing for the wedding, it's a whole lot of excitement. Maybe for a year, the whole family has been preparing. And even on the wedding day, you can see the love, the joy, the adoration. You can see how the husband and wives are looking at each other's eyes. But what has been happening over the last few years is that we will see that even sometimes after only 6 months, the wedding will dissolve. Like people would separate even when they are not divorced, or they will start having huge challenges. And this has happened even in weddings that we have attended. And it looks like it's getting more and more rampant. And that's why we felt led to have this discussion today. Also, during this COVID-19 stay at home, we've heard that a lot of couples are having challenges. Actually, it was on the news that domestic violence is increasing, which means that maybe people have used going to work as an escape. But now that, everyone is stuck together, these things are coming out more, which should really be a time of enjoying one another's company. We want to discuss this and see how we can bring hope. That is the whole point. Now, if you're a millennial right now, you are in a marriage, and you are feeling frustrated, you're having difficulties and challenges, maybe you're crying every day, you are regretting that you took this step. You might even have gotten to the point that you probably hate your spouse. You are really having a hard time. We want to tell you this morning that there is hope. Hang in there, there's hope. So we thought about it. It looks like millennials that you guys actually have some odds stacked against you. First of all, I think that there might be less preparation than maybe we had. And when I talk about preparation, I'm talking about even psychological preparation. Because I remember growing up that I always heard this: only a patient person can stay in a marriage. So I heard that all throughout my life. So I think it kind of psychologically prepared me that I may have to really exercise patience to be able to hold on to a marriage, and so many other things that we heard that I don't think you guys even had the opportunity of having things like that. Also, just the world we live in, social media. When I first got married to my husband, obviously we didn't have, this social media where I can just, hang out with my friends on the phone. So now if you have a husband and wife that are not talking to each other, each person could just go to their phones and have a good time. I mean, today, if I wanted to stay on the phone the whole day and just have fun with my phone, with my friends, with different things, I could. So now young couples have that choice that they can do that, to the extent of even having their sexual needs met just by being on the phone, maybe watching porn, instead of being with their spouse. So you guys have a lot of things stacked against you. Now, do you have some other things that you can add?
The only other thing that I want to add is this is actually nothing peculiar to the millennials. It is obvious that we live in a period of time that there is instant gratification for everything. People are lacking in patience. The technology has not made this any easier at all. because the information is all out there, both the good, the bad, and even the ugly, all put together. And to actually decipher from the technology what is appropriate can actually have a gray line. Most of you millennials have different expectation of marriage, and thinking that marriage comes easy. There is also unrealistic expectation of each other in marriage, and unrealistic expectation of yourself.
So starting out, we just want you to know that we started from a place, and that place was really way low down there. Actually, my husband and I are so unworthy of what God has placed in our hands to share because of how we started. So when we started off, it was very rough.
We started great. We started great.
Oh, yeah. Every marriage starts great. You know, I'm talking about husband and wife looking at each other, adoring each other on the wedding day. So we started off like that.
I remember.
But then, as time goes on, reality sets in. And I found out, you know, I have a strong personality. My husband has even a stronger personality. So we will get into arguments. Nobody wanted to step down. Nobody wanted to...
That's your perception, that I have a stronger personality.
So do we have the same?
You have your own strong. I think it's equal.
Okay. Okay. Anyway, so that caused a lot of problems. So we had arguments. Nobody wanted to say sorry first. Nobody wanted to step down. We said bad words to each other. We went to bed sleeping without talking to each other, turning our backs on each other. I mean, we had rough times. But today, we thank God for what he has done in our marriage. Something happened between then and now. And that's what we want to share. And people usually ask us, can you talk about specific things? What were some of the challenges that you went through? And we want to share that. And I'll just mention, of course, there were many. There are many things that I could say about my husband that he did to make me mad or to offend me. But I'll just say one. I thought that he was controlling, especially when it came to money. Like, why are you so, you know, why do you want to be into everything and gagging me and stuff? And, you know, it really took some learning. We read a book. It's a very good book, Argument-Free Marriage by Fawn Weaver. And one of the things she said, she talked about is original emotion. Many times we act out and we do things, and it's really because of something else that's driving us. So I thought my husband was controlling when it comes to money, but then later on, we got the understanding. See, my husband was raised by a widow. So she gave him the best that she could. She took care of him, but she could only do so much. So for instance, when my husband was in college, his mom only had so much to give him. She gave him enough, but if the money ran out before the end of the month, there was no way that my husband was going to get something else. So he always had this fear that he had to manage what he had so that he wouldn't be without. Well, I wasn't raised that way. I was blessed to have both my parents. I still have them till today. And I never had to worry about money. So I didn't have that situation. And I think something happened, like maybe just a couple of years after we got married, that probably really scared my husband. Just as soon as we got to the United States, I was working and making $200 a week. And it was the first time I earned that money. So indeed, I paid my tithe, I paid my offering. But the rest of the money, I took it to the store and I bought things for the house, not for myself. We had just moved into an apartment. So I bought, you know, pots and pans, plates and stuff like that. And spent, you know, virtually all the money. When my husband found out, he was horrified. Like, how do you spend all the money in one day? And I was thinking, well, next week is coming. I'm going to make another 200 and then we can begin to save and what. So I think after that, he thought to himself, I better you really manage things so this lady wouldn't run us bankrupt. So he was coming from a place of fear, even though he didn't understand it. Later, we got to understand where he was coming from. So that's one thing that really caused a lot of stress before we were able to manage that. So, Dal, can you talk about something about me that, you know, stressed you out?
Do you really want me to be very honest?
Yes. I mean, I'm an open book. What else is there to know about me? Go ahead.
Okay. I could also say that my wife was very controlling in her own way, because she always had this perception of the profile of the person that she's getting married to, and she wanted me to present myself in that particular profile, and I was not going to be bogged down into a box or to be a profile person. So that was an issue earlier on. And one other thing that she did annoyingly all the time in those days was that she was very argumentative and never giving up on anything, and always giving excuse, always finding a reason for everything. And this was constantly a source of problem in our relationship earlier on.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to go into how we actually got, help and how we were able to overcome. But I just want to share a tip. My husband talked about me being argumentative. So one thing that I know that I've done that I know has actually helped us is that it is for me to hold my tongue. And when I say hold my tongue, it's not that I'm a nagging wife or anything, but many times I feel like my husband has it wrong. Like, you have it wrong. You are thinking it's this, but it's really that. And I want to say it so much. But I found out that he considers that argument. So right now, I would just, even though I want to say that, I will hold my tongue. And when I hold my tongue and I don't keep foiling whatever is going on, even though I might be mad, like for the first few minutes, like I really want to steer him in the right direction to let him know that, this is what he needs to know. But when I restrain myself, I find that soon afterward, there is joy. The relationship is not broken. We have a good time. And it's worth it to be able to do that, to be able to make that sacrifice. Because honestly, when people get into arguments over little things, usually arguments start from little things. 3 months later, 6 months later, you really don't remember what started the argument, but you remember the effect. You remember that you said bad words to each other. You remember whatever happened. But what little thing started it, you forget. So we have to think about the long term, that you can win the war, but you lose the battle when you have to hag over every little thing. Dal, is there any tip? Is there anything that you've done personally that you think has helped, like a tip that you... Can you think of something?
Off my head right at the moment, I've learned through the years just to take things in strides, and never to hold on to things. Just count my blessings and just look at things not necessarily in a negative way, but pick my battles, so to speak.
Exactly. I've observed my husband do that. He doesn't sweat the small stuff anymore. He has learned to pick his battle. Everything doesn't have to be right. His wife doesn't have to do everything right. So he can just, laugh at my mistakes, at my boo-boos, actually, instead of getting upset like he used to. Now he's just like, okay, you're a package, so, so, if I'm getting this from you, that's okay. So that has helped us. But what road did we actually take? Like, what things did we put in place?
Well, first and foremost is the aspect of commitment. Right from the beginning, we had a lifelong commitment for better, for worse, and to daily be reminded of those vows, which a whole lot of us don't really go back to remind ourselves of those vows, has been very important. That you don't just wake up one day and say that, oh, I'm out of this, or divorce is the answer. We want to uphold those sacred vows for better, for worse, in health and in sickness, in wealth or in poverty. These are great vows that we made. Secondly, we have availed ourselves of the resources that God has given unto us. First and foremost, the Bible is there as a blueprint, understanding that the institution of marriage was established by God himself, and he did not leave us ignorant. He has in his words how we need to live in this institution. We also have made use of God-fearing, inspired authors. Have written so many books. They are psychologists. The methods have been tried and tested, and they've been able to share with us. And that is one thing that we have also done very well in looking at these books. Another area that we have invested in is marriage enrichment. This is a support group for married couples with like minds who want to excel in their marriages. We started about 7 years ago, and every month since that 7 years ago, we come together in different homes, and we sit together, share together. We pick out one book a year, and we allocate different chapters to different couples to come and facilitate, and we share practical points. And this has actually transformed our marriage to the next high level. And finally, we have also invested in attending on a yearly basis a couples retreat, which was started by the South Atlantic Conference of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And kudos to the leaders in that arena. For the past 16, 17 years, uninterruptedly, we have attended this meeting, ranging in terms of numbers. We have ranging from about 150 to 300 couples.
Okay, thank you. So there's a favorite verse of mine in the Bible, because I think it applies to everything, really. My people perish, or my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Many times we don't know things. We don't know our spouse, and we don't know how to navigate this marriage thing, because you don't know what you don't know. And this is what this marriage enrichment has done for us. The yearly one that we started attending, very powerful, because it just opened our eyes like, oh my goodness, I've been doing it wrong, so I could do this. You know, you actually come out with tips, with skill sets that you can use in certain situations. And it has really, really helped. I remember one time we had this couple. They'd been married, I think it was about 10 years ago, that they told us they'd been married for 58 years then. They were actually there this time. They had been married 68 years this time. But 10 years ago, the woman stood up and told us, don't you all know that marriage is business? Marriage is business. Who has a business and doesn't have a business plan? Who has a business and wishes for the business to fail? That is how we have to approach marriage. She also said, marriage is hard work. So I'm asking you, what work have you put into your marriage? We have to be intentional with our marriage. Marriage will never autopilot itself. If you just wake up every day and you just feel like, oh, because we loved each other when we met and all this, that's going to carry on without lifting a finger, that's not going to happen. You know, when I say hard work, it doesn't mean that it's something that's bad or something that takes all your energy. It just means that you are intentional. And I remember my mom always told me also that marriage is like a garden. If you tender it, you water it, you take care of it, it's going to grow beautiful. You're going to have beautiful flowers. But if you have a garden and you just leave it by itself, it's going to grow weeds and it's going to look very ugly. So you have to do something, and that's the advantage of that. But if you've done all that and you're still having challenges, then you may need to seek, you know, a mentor, maybe a spiritual couple, or a couple that you trust and that you've seen that, you know, you think that their marriage is good and they can help you. You can approach them, you know, people that you trust, people that you know will keep your confidence. And if that doesn't work, you may need to go on to the next level of seeking professional counseling. We should not shy away from seeking professional counseling if we need it. Because if we have a headache, we easily take a bottle of Tylenol and pop some pills if we need to. If we are told that we have diabetes, we know to go to the doctor, we need to exercise, we know to eat the proper foods, and maybe to start on medication or even insulin if we have to. We don't have problems with all of that. But when it comes to our marriages, we feel like, oh, even though we're having problems, we just need to keep it to ourselves. No, you may need to seek professional counseling, and that's okay. If you're a Christian, I'll advise that you seek Christian counselors and people that have experience, that have done it. And sometimes, in addition to professional counseling for the couples, sometimes we find that individuals also need counseling. Sometimes it's just hard to get along with some people in a marriage. Sometimes one of the spouses will try, and things are really not working. And sometimes what we are finding, even interacting with people, is that sometimes we bring baggages. It might be some emotional trauma. It might be even some mental issues that somebody is dealing with, and they just cannot act right in a marriage. So sometimes you may need individual counseling, and it may be both of you. You know, each of you may need to just look inward and see what is going on so that even the couple's counseling will work. And I just want to advise, especially, with you young people, don't take your issues to people just to talk about your spouse. Because people are going to tell you, oh, my spouse doesn't do that. Oh, my spouse doesn't do that. And that's really not accurate, because everyone has different personalities. For instance, my husband is someone who wants to get it done yesterday. He's driven. Now, you might be married to someone who the stuff needs to be done today, but they're not going to do it till next year. So those are two different personalities. So I may come and say, oh, my husband doesn't do that. Or why is your husband doing it? Well, there might be something that your own husband is doing badly that my husband is doing well. So when you talk to people and you share about what is happening in your marriage, you may not be getting the correct information from them. Even though they think they are giving you the correct information, they are really not, because they don't know the whole story. Why should you fight for your marriage? Because you may ask, it's just too much work. I just want to move on. First of all, the grass is not always greener on the other side. We have an older friend who told us, if I knew then what I know now, I will still be in my marriage. Because many times we rush out. And I think it was also in one of the retreats that we went for that they told us, which we have found to be true, that marriage actually gets better. In the beginning, it's very hard because you have two strangers basically coming together. But you begin to know and appreciate each other more. You begin to really know where people are coming from. For instance, when I married my husband, we were just Joe and Jane, just living our lives. But when I had a traumatic experience when I was 33 years old and I fell ill and I almost died, I saw my husband in another light. Suddenly, I saw someone who was committed. I saw someone who was ready to take care of me so much. I saw what he did. And then I saw him in a completely different light. Like, wow, I'm really married to my husband, for all that he did during that time. That allowed me to see very early on in life who I was married to. But before then, I really didn't know. I really didn't know the quality of who I was married to. And you may be in the same situation. We just don't know, So you just have to wait it out sometimes because it gets better. We can truly say that by the grace of God, what we are experiencing now, and we told you all our trouble. So it's not like we didn't have trouble. We did. But right now, in this marriage, there's a lot of love. There's a lot of beauty. There's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of romance. There's better romance than in the beginning, right? Are you shy?
Yes, I ditto everything that my wife just said.
There is, because when your mind is joined to someone, when you begin to appreciate them, your love life is better, than when you hardly know them. So it gets better. That's just the encouragement. It gets better. Don't give up. And then another thing, most of you are in professions. You've gone to school for many years to come up with, to become who you are. You put in a lot of effort, a lot of money, a lot of time. You took a lot of insults. And many of us are on our jobs. We're doing a lot of things to get promoted. We go through a lot and we endure it. Why can't we do the same thing for marriage? Why don't we want to put in the time, the investment, the money, if we have to go for all these retreats, to spend the time? Why don't we want to do that for our marriage? I will submit to us. Your marriage is the relationship that's going to outlast any other relationship. Because your children are going to grow old. They're going to grow up and leave you. It's going to be you and your spouse. So your spouse is going to be the one to be there, you know, when you're sick, when you need help, whatever. And the job, either you leave the job or the job will leave you. I've said this before. One of it is going to happen. The only commitment, the only person that's going to be always there, stable, is your spouse. So why wouldn't we invest in that relationship?
Just in addition to all that my wife has said, my only few advice that I would like to add is to also understand the higher calling and purpose for Christian marriage. And everyone can benefit from this, whether you are a millennial or whether you are people of our own age group or even older couples, so that we come together. We begin to realize that even 40 years into marriage, some people are actually testifying that they are now just enjoying the blessing of marriage when they have invested these little tips that we are sharing. Understanding the higher calling and purpose for Christian marriage, other than for us giving ourselves happiness or just as an antidote to loneliness or just having free sex or procreation and raising children. The higher calling is to understand that you have to have a personal relationship with God, which we cannot sugarcoat at all. Agree in your marriage to make Jesus Christ the center of your home, and each one of you striving to come to the center. And we have used this illustration so many times. When you make Christ the center of the home and each one is striving to get closer to Christ, you are bound to become closer to one another. You also have to understand and agree to model the plan of salvation that is invested in marriage. Actually, God designed marriage as a ministry of reconciliation in which the plan of salvation ought to be displayed to the whole world. And you know, packaged in the plan of salvation includes forgiveness, confession, and repentance. There is bound to be mutual sacrifice, mutual submission unto each other, esteeming each one better than the other. And marriage is actually God calling us into the stewardship of serving one another through the acts of love. And this will require for you to learn the love language of your particular spouse, understanding what makes them feel appreciated, what makes them feel accepted, and practicing this over and over. And I must tell you that these skills don't come easy, and that is why the support group that we advised earlier comes very, very handy.
I want to end by talking about physical abuse, emotional and physical abuse. That is a reality that is going on. That is not anything that anyone should have to deal with. It is wrong. So if you have this tendency, if you are abusive in your marriage, if you like to just go on and on and on and on and barrage your spouse with words that really hurt, or you actually inflict pain on them by actually beating your spouse, that is wrong, and you need help. You need help, because that is wrong. And if you are a spouse, and I'm going to talk in terms of gender, because honestly, it is true that women abuse men, but overwhelmingly, what the statistics show is that it's more from men towards women. So if you abuse your spouse in that manner, you need to get help. And if you're a woman in this relationship and your husband is physically abusing you, he needs to get help. You need to know that you are not the cause of that. It is not because of what you have done. It's because of who he is right now and how he's choosing to act. And that should not be tolerated. So please, if you are the one doing that, know that you need help. And there is help out there to guide you. And if you're in that situation and unfortunately the person refuses to get help, but they want to continue beating you every day, you will need to separate yourself from that situation. I'm not asking you to divorce. I'm not asking anyone to divorce. But if you have someone who is physically abusing you, because at the end, it may cost you your life. If that is happening, you need to separate. And for someone who is going through this thing, if you are the one that's inflicting the pain and hurting someone else, you are also hurting yourself, because it shows that something is happening within and is still going to hurt you in one way or another. So there's a story in the Bible where one woman was caught in adultery. Obviously, she was in adultery with a man. We didn't hear anything about the man or what was going to be done to him, but the woman was going to be stoned to death. Jesus came to the rescue. Because of him, that woman was not killed. At the end of the day, her accusers left. And Jesus turned to her and said, go and sin no more. So even to a woman that sinned, Jesus delivered her from being killed. I truly believe that if Jesus were here today and he saw a woman being abused, being beaten almost to death, he would rescue her. That's why I know that it is safe for you to remove yourself from the situation if it's getting that bad.
Yes, we all understand the statistics in terms of the abuse, but what advice do you give to our ladies? Because we understand that verbal abuse can actually be more painful to the men than physical abuse, because statistics tell us that women have this so much more abundant words that they share, and sometimes they use it as a weapon of whipping on the husband to the point of the husband really being provoked into physical or emotional abuse.
That's why it's good that you have both of us so that my husband can speak for the men. It is true that we have more words that we speak in a day. I think it's twice the number that men have.
More than twice, maybe 4 times more.
But anyway, the point is that it is true that many of us can talk to the point that we enrage our husband. You know, the Bible says that we should be wise. So I'm not going to sit here and say, you can do whatever to your husband. You can say whatever you want to say, but he must not touch you. He shouldn't touch you, but, you know, human nature can take over when a man is overwhelmed. So we just have to be careful, just in any marriage. Even in my marriage, that's not abusive. You know, when you keep talking to the point, when I see myself, you know, even escalating in my talk, you know, you have to calm things down so that you don't invite trouble. So we also need to be careful. There's verbal abuse, there's emotional abuse, there's physical abuse. So you could also go on and on and on in your words. And sexual abuse.
When you use sex as a weapon of men destruction.
That's the topic.
Some people have used that too.
I haven't. He's not talking about me.
No, I'm not.
That's a topic for another day. But truly, we have to be careful. We have a part to play. But we know that there are situations where the woman is meek and mild and she still gets that. So that's what's wrong. So God will help us. So as we end, we just want to invite you to something that's coming up. It's a marriage retreat. It's specific for couples 10 years and below. It's called Beyond I Do. And we really give kudos to the organizers, Tunde and Tinu Adediro. They've only been married about 5 years, and they started having this retreat 3 years ago, which means 2 years into their marriage. And it's been a blessing. We've been a part of it. The main presenters are really great. They actually have a ministry dedicated to millennials. So they're going to be right on point. Gary and Tanya James. Make sure you register. We're going to put it on the screen for you. So we thank you so much for listening today. Thank you for watching. And please share this video if you've been blessed. Share it with others so they also can be blessed. So thank you again for your patience.
And thank you again for the opportunity.